The laughter started softly at first, the kind that hides behind crystal glasses and silk sleeves, but it grew louder as the night wore on, sharp and cruel, aimed at the man standing quietly near the marble pillar with a serving tray trembling slightly in his hands. No one noticed the tired lines on his face or the way his shoulders carried more than just the weight of silverware. They only saw a waiter in a worn vest, a single dad trying to survive in a room full of power, wealth, and arrogance. And in that moment, none of them could have imagined that before the night ended, those same laughs would turn into stunned silence that would echo through the grand hall forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden strength of ordinary people, take a moment to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what truly matters. He had arrived at the restaurant long before the guests, straightening chairs beneath golden chandeliers while thinking about his son's school shoes that were starting to tear at the sides. Every shift mattered. Every tip meant groceries, rent, and maybe a small smile on his boy's face. Life had not been gentle with him. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving behind silence, hospital bills, and a child who still asked why mom never came home. He took the waiter job because it was honest work, because it kept food on the table, and because it allowed him to be home before his son fell asleep, even if he arrived exhausted and broken inside. The restaurant that night was hosting an elite corporate gala, the kind where deals worth millions were discussed between bites of expensive food. The CEO of a powerful company was present, surrounded by executives and investors who spoke loudly and laughed even louder. They noticed the waiter not because of his service, which was flawless, but because he did not belong in their world. His suit was simple, his shoes scuffed, and his eyes carried a seriousness that did not match the careless joy around him. One man mimicked his posture. Another joked about how people like him should be grateful just to stand in the same room. Their laughter spilled across the marble floor, and some guests joined without even knowing why. The waiter heard it all. He always did. He kept his head down the way he had learned to, focusing on balancing plates and ignoring the sting in his chest. He reminded himself that dignity was not something others could take unless he allowed them to. Still, the humiliation burned. He thought of his son again, of teaching him to be kind even when the world wasn't. He took a breath and moved on. What no one knew was that this man's life had not always been trays and tips. Years ago, before loss reshaped everything, he had served in a special unit, trained to protect others at the cost of his own safety. He had walked away from that life after his wife's death, choosing peace over violence, choosing fatherhood over pride. The strength remained, buried beneath grief and responsibility, dormant but never gone. The turning point came suddenly. A drunk guest stumbled into a waitress near the center of the hall, sending glasses crashing to the floor. Before anyone could react, 5 men surrounded her, their voices raised, their anger fueled by ego and alcohol. The music stopped. Fear rippled through the room. Security was nowhere in sight. People froze, unsure whether to intervene or look away. The waiter moved without thinking. He set the tray down gently, as if respecting the quiet before a storm. His heart pounded, not with rage, but with a familiar sense of duty. He stepped between the men and the terrified woman, his posture calm, his presence steady. One man shoved him hard, mocking his uniform, daring him to do something. The laughter returned briefly, confident and cruel. Then everything changed. What followed happened so fast it felt unreal. The waiter's movements were precise, controlled, and powerful, like muscle memory waking from a long sleep. One man went down, then another, the sounds of shock replacing laughter. Chairs scraped, plates shattered, and panic erupted as the remaining men tried to overpower him, only to fall one by one. He never struck in anger. Every motion was defensive, efficient, meant to stop the threat and nothing more. Within seconds, 5 men lay defeated on the marble floor, groaning in disbelief. The room was silent. Guests stared with wide eyes. Phones trembled in hands that forgot to record. The CEO stood frozen, his face drained of color, staring at the waiter he had dismissed moments earlier. In that silence, something shifted. Respect entered the room, heavy and undeniable. The waiter stepped back, breathing hard, suddenly aware of where he was. He looked at the broken glass, the frightened faces, and felt the weight of what he had done. Old instincts faded, replaced by worry. He expected punishment, dismissal, maybe worse. He thought of his son again and felt fear tighten his chest. But instead of anger, applause slowly rose, hesitant at first, then stronger. Not celebration of violence, but recognition of courage. Security finally arrived, followed by management. The CEO approached, not with arrogance, but humility. For the first time that night, he truly saw the man in front of him, not as a waiter, but as a father, a protector, a survivor. The aftermath unfolded quietly. The injured men were escorted out. The waitress was safe. The guests spoke in hushed voices, their earlier laughter replaced with reflection. The CEO requested a private conversation, not to scold, but to listen. He learned about the single dad, the loss, the long nights, the silent sacrifices. He learned that strength doesn't always wear expensive suits. By the end of the night, the waiter returned home to his small apartment, his son asleep on the couch, homework spread across the table. He kissed his forehead gently, tears filling his eyes. He did not know that his life had already begun to change. Days later, an opportunity arrived, one born not from violence, but from character. The CEO, shaken by what he had witnessed, offered him a position focused on safety training and mentorship within the company, recognizing leadership where others had seen nothing. It wasn't charity. It was respect. The single dad accepted, not for pride, but for stability, for a future where his son could dream freely. He never bragged about that night. He taught his child that real power lies in restraint, in standing up when it matters, and in choosing kindness even when the world laughs. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that strength often hides behind humility, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. Before you go, comment below and tell us, do you believe true strength is quiet? Because sometimes, the ones the world laughs at are the very ones holding it together, waiting for the moment when courage speaks louder than mockery, and dignity rises where laughter once stood.